Howdy, folks. Just doing a fuel filter change on the 7.3 here. And I guess I'll get right into it here. So not a lot to this, to me this is the easiest damn filter change you can do. I mean, in a way I think it's easier than an oil change. I think it's about the easiest fuel filter I've ever encountered. I think there's a couple others that you might say are a little easier. Some of your inlines maybe, but overall, I don't understand why anybody'd pay anybody to change their 7.3 fuel filter. But with that said, I've kind of bounced around over the years with fuel filters, but really, for the most part, I just stick with the OEM factory one. Mainly, I usually get a pretty good deal on them, but you can also get them from there's a guy, and I think he's out in eastern Colorado. I think his Diesel O-rings. He's got a lot of rebuild kits and everything for these 7.3s. I think I've got like a magnet from him or something sitting up in here somewhere. Yeah, this guy, and that right there is the place to go. And he sells fuel filters as well. You can get them in, I think they're Ricor or something like that. You can get especially if I think you buy a 6-pack, or used to be able to buy like a 6-pack of them, and they were super cheap at the time you did that. Just keep them on hand, and they come all individually wrapped up in cellophane. I think it's the actual manufacturer who makes these, and they come in, everything there comes all wrapped in nice plastic, and they give you a little even instruction sheet. Anyway, so that's that. Now, as far as changing these, basically what you're going to do is be prepared to get up in here a little bit. But on the back side here, you've got a little yellow, basically valve to drain this guy, right? And so right now it's in the drain position, it's open, and then just to flip it closed, all you do is flip it 90 degrees that way. It's super easy. So I've already drained her out, and how I do that is just by putting a couple cheap, plastic, real flexible water bottles. Well, there they are. So you gotta drain it in 2 increments, which is kind of a pain anyways. Or you could just, I guess, drain it onto the floor. I mean, whatever, but so you're probably going to be draining somewhere around, it's got to be around 30 ounces of fluid out of there, because these are, 17-ounce bottles, and each one of them's a little more than half full, so somewhere 25, 30 ounces, I don't know, around there of fluid. But when you do drain that, I always like to kind of keep an eye, see what you're draining out of there, see if you got any floaters or any chunks or rust, contaminants, water, obviously, you can see very easily in the diesel. Now, where I am currently, I have not, I don't know if it's something with the fuel treatment that I use, or a combination of that and where I'm at with diesel being a lot better. But when I was living in Colorado, I tell you, this would be absolutely disgusting, especially when I lived down in southwestern Colorado in Durango. My fuel system was filled with shit all the time. It was disgusting. Rust, chunks of stuff, just nasty, And so now where I'm at, when I change these, I'm always just surprised how clean everything comes out, especially the old filters. So with that said, have a couple bottles ready. Nice, having these really flexible is nice, because what you're doing is you're fishing them right up in here, and there's a copper steel drain line, copper colored I guess, but it's probably steel drain line right here. You just can fold one of those bottles up in there and basically drain it out. So I'll show you what that looks like a little bit better. So there we go. So there's your drain tube. Just shove it up in there. You can usually rest the bottle so it rests. And once again, having it flexible is nice, because you just got to fish it right through here through the wheel well. But easy. So that's that step. Drain her out, flip the valve open, drain it out, and once you've drained it out a little bit, then you can remove the cap. And the factory OEM cap is what I've stuck with obviously using the OEM filters. So I'll show that to you here. Crawl up in there. Oh. So let's see here. All right. So, you know, there's your OEM cap. Hold on to that. Some people throw those out and then they regret it and have to buy another one. Because if you buy a non-OEM, sometimes the filter is attached to the cap and you replace the whole assembly basically. But I like that OEM cap and seems to work real well. So after I've drained this thing out, I'll wipe around in here a little bit. Sometimes you'll see from where I used to be, I'd always get such an amount of rust and crap and water in my fuel. I mean, my water and fuel light would be on like twice or 3 times during the winter when I was living in Durango. And since really I moved from Durango, I've never had the water and fuel light come on again. But you know, you got your fuel bolt. Now there's O-rings on these, a couple spots on these, but if that starts leaking on you, which is a common thing, I've replaced mine once. That diesel O-rings has a little kit to replace those O-rings. Takes, I mean, just a couple minutes. Once if you're at this at the process of changing the fuel filters, perfect time to do it. Open that thing up, replace the O-ring, slap her back together, easy. Now you'll see kind of here that I've got a little bit of rust in the bottom. Rust, little chunks and floaties. There you go, you can kind of see right there. And so what I'll do once this thing's open, and the drain is right there on that back side, you can kind of see her right there, the bottom. So what I'll do is take some distilled water and literally just dump it in here. And I don't know, some people might disagree with this, but I like to flush out all these damn chunks. So just doing this, you don't need I don't run a ton of water through here, but that always seems to, there it is, that always seems to flush out some little chunks of rust and stuff. See, that flushed out some of those, so, and there was a little bit more, so that flushed them out. And so now what I'll do is usually just take a good old paper towel, get all the water out of there, and leaving a little bit in there. I've never had an issue with some water droplets, but get down to the bottom and everything here best I can without removing the heater. There we go. See, I mean, so this thing was cleaned out, you know, last time I did the fuel filter, so it hasn't been too long, but there's always some little chunks of crap that come up. Now, I've never dropped the tank in this truck or done that, the filter in the tank or that pickup, so that is something I'd like to do, but I've been kind of holding off on it because I keep telling myself I want to put in was it a 50, I think it is, a 50-gallon aftermarket tank in this thing, get the range up to around 700 miles, but I don't know, every time I think about it, then I look at the price of those damn tanks and I just can't swallow it. So anyways, this summer I might do something like that, is just pull that, either way, get into that tank and see what I see in there. So, alright, that should be pretty well. You can see all the rust and stuff, little particles of crap. But now I think I got all the real big loose things that are sitting in there. Sides of the bowl. This top ring is the sealing ring, so I always just wipe it down and then pretty much ready to go at that point. So now there's my old filter. You can kind of see there, you know, it's got some little pieces of, you know, what do you want to call it, rust, dirt, something from, you know, the incoming. And then as far as the filter media, though, real clean, not dark. I mean, like I say, when I used to live in Durango, these would be disgusting after really 6,000-7,000 miles. And I think I've got probably 10,000 miles on this one or so. I mean, I've been changing about once a year. Driven this pickup a little, yeah, I guess quite a bit this year. And mainly most of my towing with this driving with this pickup is towing, you know, so I'm burning through a lot more fuel per mile doing that. So there's that guy. And now you do have, I guess, 2 O-rings on here, or 2 rings, sealing rings, right? You've got the O-ring that sits in this groove on the filter that is all, once again, when you get the new filter, it's all pre-wrapped, and then you comes with a beveled, basically, gasket that sits in there, and after you crank her down, you can't reuse that. So your new filter comes with all those. So I've already got my new filter here, ready to go. I put my O-ring around this edge, as you can see there, so it's seated in there. And I just use a little bit of the, as long as you get pretty good clean fuel, I just use a little bit of the fuel out of my bottle that I drained out. Lightly lubricate that guy, as well as right in there, your orifice. And then you'll just basically drop her right down into there. Easy, easy. Press a little firm, seat it down in there. You don't need to get crazy with it, because when you crank down the cap, it'll suck it down right into its nice proper seated position. And then what you do is you got your beveled sealing, O-ring, gasket, what have you. And you're going to just set this guy right along the top inside this. Nice. Now the trick with this is I always pull these out like 2 or 3 days, these O-ring and this gasket, out of the box of the new filter, and then I just let it sit on the workbench or somewhere, just room temperature. That way they soften up, because otherwise when you go to maybe pull one of these out of the package, they're all like an oval and kind of folded over, and that can make setting one of these in here a little bit more difficult. I mean, it's not impossible. I've done it, but if I remember, I always try to pull this thing out a couple days ahead of time, and that makes it just so much easier just to seat right down in there. And I've never had one of these leak, ever. And I mean, what, I've been changing the fuel filter on this thing for the last, 180,000 miles or something like that. So, easy process. So now, we're all drained back there too, so I'm going to close my drain. Just flip that guy shut. Easy, easy. Closed. And now filter's in there, O-ring's in there, bevel side facing up with the point. I've already wiped this guy down too. And now what we'll do is just tighten this guy in here. And as I'm doing this too, I'm always kind of just looking around, making sure that O-ring is seating properly. It feels like it is, can't feel it bunching out. Now, when you start tightening this thing, you can start to feel it sucking down the filter a little bit, pushing it down into that housing a little further. There, solid firm stop. Now feel around this outside edge. I might even kind of give it a little bit more of a visual inspection around, see if anything looks off to me. Nothing looks crazy, so that's should be pretty good, I think. And then now you can get special tools to tighten and loosen these caps, but they don't need to be tight at all. You know, don't get crazy with them. It's just plastic, and you got a good sealing O-ring in there. So basically what my process has been for the last 12 years is basically just some channel locks. That's what I get it on and off with. So I'll just take the channel locks in there and lock them on in and turn this thing until I've got a nice firm, probably I don't know, you might say maybe half turn after that it seats itself in there. And then pretty much as long as you're looking at this gasket and it's been flattened out so your cap is right on top of your aluminum housing there, you're pretty much tight. So, you know, snug it down as much as you can by hand, give it a half turn with a, you know, some channel locks or specialty wrench, what have you, and you're done. So I might, I'll probably just give this, once I have my other hand free to the camera, I'll probably just give it a little extra quarter turn and call her good, and then, you know, get in the pickup there, crank the key over 3 or 4 times, just to pressurize the fuel bowl, and fire her on up. Just look under here for any little leaks, and I've never had anything leak on me after sealing this thing up, and be done. So My other tip for this is just have I just got some old pants I cut up, set them right there, so when you pull out that old one out of the housing, it's going to be dripping, right? So then you can just go set her right there. And that's really all there is to these. These 7.3 filter changes are cake. And yeah, as far as, like I said, fuel treatment that I use, I've been using a lot, and I think I'm going to do a whole nother video on that another time, but I guess of late, I've just been using, I don't even think you can get this shit anymore, but CRC diesel therapy. I got a super good deal on this, to say the least, and this is what I've been dumping in there for the last really two and a half years, and haven't had any issues with that. But I run Hot Shots, that's kind of your premium stuff. I won't touch Howes or Power Service anymore for winter use, but that's a whole nother discussion. And then sometimes for a long time there I was running strictly Stanadyne in this pickup too. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is this stuff definitely does wonders for the water and fuel. Like, once I got rid of using Power Service, but I have never had the water and fuel light come on this pickup. I've never had any gelling after switching over out of that. And the amount of contamination rust that I see in this housing, is completely decreased. So I think that does wonders, and that's what I got for you. So change your 7.3 fuel filter. I think if you aren't towing heavy and you're living in an area where you got good clean fuel, once you've established that, you could probably go, I would even venture to guess 20,000 mile service interval on those filters if you're using field treatment and in a good area. But like I said, when I was living in Durango, you'd want to be changing them damn filters about every 6,000 miles, so every other oil change, and they would come out filthy. No matter where I was buying my fuel consistently, when I lived in Durango, it was just disgusting. Up here in Montana, maybe something, I don't know, supply chain, obviously, I don't know, regulations with keeping fuel, storing fuel, but it's a lot cleaner up here. So with that said, that's what I got for you, and have a good rest of your day.